Low back pain is a global crisis, and we're going to talk about how it can be financially devastating, bankrupt you, leave you disabled, leave you unable to do the things that you love, and more importantly for you, if you are dealing with low back pain or sciatica, what do you do about it? How do you make sure it does not become a crisis for you? Why are we so bad at managing low back pain? Let's dive into it. Chronic low back pain is the #1 cause of disability in the entire world. Okay, more than heart disease, more than cancer, more than autoimmune conditions. It is the worst. So if you have low back pain, you are not alone. This is a huge deal. Obviously, #1 cause of disability in the world. So if you haven't been able to fix it, it's not your fault. Obviously, we're just bad at it. You know, our systems, our healthcare system is broken and we're just bad at managing it. So again, not your fault. To put this into perspective, there are more years lived with disability for low back pain than for any other health condition. Okay, so we just count this up and we look over the span of your lifetime if you have low back pain versus, let's say, heart disease. How many years during your life until you die are you likely to end up living with disability, right? The inability to do the things that you need to throughout your day. And low back pain, more disabling than any other health condition on the planet. To really nail the, hit the nail on the head here, it's more disabling. Put this into perspective. Low back pain is more disabling than cancer. It's more freaking disabling than cancer. I don't know about you, but when I think about health conditions and I think about like what's the worst thing that you could possibly have, I think cancer top of the list every time. I'm always thinking cancer is the worst. But the truth is, low back pain is more disabling than cancer. It's more disabling than heart disease, even though the top causes of death in the United States, I believe the top cause is cardiovascular disease, heart attack, right? And the various complications that come along with it. So you could have all kinds of things, heart disease, so we can have heart attacks, strokes, that type of stuff, various metabolic disorders like diabetes. So low back pain, more disabling than diabetes. This one hits home. One of my grandmothers had a very rough end of her life. You know, the last years of her life, she struggled with diabetes, and she had, the peripheral neuropathy, her legs swole up with the edema and lymphedema, and I mean she was disabled. She was totally disabled, and it's because diabetes is crippling, and yet low back pain is worse. Crazy. I had no idea until I started researching this stuff and became a doctor how bad low back pain really is. It's more disabling than depression, and it's more disabling than infectious diseases. So again, low back pain, I don't know why we just ignore it. We just live with it. We just deal with it. But it's more disabling, again, than cancer and heart disease. Those are the ones that really surprise me. But again, as always, here I am citing my sources. So anytime you see a little bubble at the bottom here, these are peer-reviewed references. If you're interested, screenshot those and look it up for yourself. So not only is it physically devastating, it's financially devastating, right? It's bankrupting, and it's more bankrupting than heart disease. It's more bankrupting than cancer. It's more expensive to have low back pain for your whole life than it is to have any kind of mental health condition, depression, anxiety, any of those things. And it's more financially devastating than autoimmune conditions, which seem to be on the rise. So again, I always think of all these things, especially cancer and heart disease. I really think of those as the worst possible things that you could have, and the most common things that people die from in the United States. But guess what? As far as being physically and financially devastated, low back pain is way more disabling and way more bankrupting than even heart disease and cancer. So if you have this, you've got to fix it. You need to do anything in your power to stop the cycle of chronic pain right now, because if it becomes a lifelong problem, it is not a good life that you're going to be living, right? You're definitely not going to be living your best life. So we want to fix this right away so that it doesn't become worse than heart disease or worse than cancer. So to put this into an even greater perspective, annually in the United States, low back pain costs up to $625 billion. Low back pain, $625 billion in total medical expenses. And in the United States, about 94 billion of that is direct medical costs. So this is interesting. Most of the cost isn't even from the actual direct medical cost, paying your doctor, paying your copays. Most of it is the indirect medical costs of paying for all the other bullshit that you have to pay for. And some of that is going to include, you're buying medical devices like an inversion table, massage guns, creams, supplements, going to nutritionists, going to health practitioners that aren't covered by insurance. So the annual cost of low back pain, most of it isn't even the stuff that insurance covers. It's all the other stuff. And a lot of that stuff ends up being the stuff that actually works, unfortunately. I wish insurance would cover things like, just regular old exercise, nutrition, that type of stuff. But most of the time they don't. Unfortunately, for low back pain, they don't. And that's why it's costing us so much. And guess what? We're just getting worse at handling it. We're terrible at handling low back pain. Your healthcare system is broken. Your doctors are just giving you cookie cutter bullshit care that doesn't work. And it's getting worse. Over time, we are getting worse, not better, right? You would think that as we get more research, as we get more advanced technology, treatment methods, that we would get better and better and better at treating low back pain. But guess what? The systems that are treating your low back pain, the standard medical systems that treat your low back pain, they don't give a shit. They're not incentivized by getting you better, right? There are entire industries like the pharmaceutical industry, for example, or surgery, medical devices, that type of thing, hospitals, that profit off of you being sick, off of you continuing to be disabled from your low back pain and sciatica. And they don't have any incentive to actually fix the system. And that's why your treatment is getting worse and worse and worse as their profits are going up and up and up. So there's no incentive to give you a real solution to your pain, unfortunately, and that's why it's getting worse. Now, okay, that's a lot of bad news, a lot of doom and gloom. What about some good news? Well, the good news is most episodes of low back pain do resolve on their own given enough time. If you give it some time, if you slowly ease your way back into activity, most of the time low back pain and sciatica is going to resolve on its own. And again, here's references for everything that I'm saying. The trouble is that once it becomes chronic, once you've had low back pain for 3 months or more, it becomes sort of a sink or swim situation where either you sink into the maelstrom of the medical system. You go to your doctor, they send you to physical therapy, but it's not very good. They kind of baby you. They just give you some basic core stability and stretching exercises. Well, that didn't work, so now what do? You have an MRI. You have an orthopedic surgical consult. They want to do injections, corticosteroid injections into your spine, nerve blocks. They want to give you gabapentin. They want to give you muscle relaxers, opiates. Okay, well, that didn't work. Now what do? Well, you go have surgery. What does that lead to? Well, now this low back pain and sciatica that most of the time resolves on its own, you sink into the medical system and it spits you out, right? It just chews you up and spits you out. And now low back pain is a lifelong disability. The other option is, instead of sinking, you swim. You learn how to swim. And the reason I put my logo next to the swim icon right here, or word here, is because that's what I've strived so hard to do, is to put together programs for people that are holistic, that teach you how to fish, how to actually manage things on your own. That's why I've made over 500 different videos to teach people how to manage their pain, because ultimately that's the only long-term situation, is you need to learn how to swim. And I do my part here, and I hope that you find these valuable. And if you do, go ahead and hit the like button. That really helps to get this type of education out to more people. So it's either sink or swim. So which one are you going to do? Well, even if you try to be, a good patient and you try to quote unquote do the right thing here, even for people who choose physical therapy, chiropractors, massage, nutrition, all those kinds of things, well, guess what? It's still not working, right? Because if physical therapy worked, if physical therapists were actually good at getting people out of chronic low back pain and sciatica, then chronic low back pain wouldn't be the #1 cause of disability in the world. So even though physical therapy should be the gold standard for low back pain and sciatica, unfortunately, here we are, it's still the #1 cause of disability, which means the physical therapy is not working, right? And it leads to a lifetime cost of pain easily over $300,000 when you fail at physical therapy and then you get thrust through the medical system. It costs you your life and your your bank account. Unfortunately, I don't mean to laugh, but it's devastating. So here's the deal too. This is the other shocking thing to me. All right, so obviously I think physical therapy should be the gold standard, but it's not. It's not, right? So if you look over here, we see that 65%, almost 66% of people with low back pain are prescribed drugs for their low back pain. Even though they're not supposed to, doctors are not supposed to prescribe drugs for low back pain, at least not as a first-line treatment. So 66% of people are prescribed drugs. Only 60% are prescribed physical therapy. More people are prescribed drugs for their low back pain than physical therapy. Okay, there is something very broken about a system where more people are given drugs than exercise for their low back pain. 50% of people end up seeing chiropractors, about 25%, 26% get corticosteroid injections. Again, drugs and injections are not evidence-based medicine, right? These things don't work, and yet more people are given drugs than exercise. But again, I want to return to the point here. Even if you do go try to do quote unquote the right thing and you try to go to physical therapy, it doesn't end up working, right? So why doesn't it work? Why does physical therapy, why do chiropractors, why does all that stuff not actually end up solving your problem? Now, obviously for some people it does, but big picture, #1 cause of disability in the world, low back pain, we're not doing a great job, so why doesn't it work? Well, I'll tell you exactly why it doesn't work. The reason is because the things that they do in physical therapy and that chiropractors do, even though it's standard across the board, you go to any physical therapist, any chiropractor that does any kind of exercise-based rehabilitation, what are they gonna do? Well, they're gonna try to fix your muscle imbalances, your posture, they're gonna teach you core stability, they're gonna have you do some stretching, right? They're gonna try to fix your alignment, your joint alignment, your muscle knots, all that kind of stuff, right? And here is a bunch of research that shows that these things that are the standard in physical therapy, any physical therapist, any chiropractor, they're gonna do these things. But here's tons of research showing that those things don't work. Those things don't even work for fixing low back pain. So if your physical therapist or chiropractor had bothered to actually read the research on low back pain, instead of just treating you like a number, treating you like, giving you the cookie cutter, low back pain cookie cutter program here with muscle imbalances, posture, core, and stretching, well, then you might actually get better. So you're trying to do the right things, you go to physical therapy, but your physical therapist doesn't actually read the research and you end up getting crappy treatment. Well, we know this doesn't work, so what are we going to do instead? Here's the deal. It's not that, core stability and stretching and all that kind of stuff is totally useless. Sometimes in the right context for the right patient at the right time in the right amount, that stuff has some impact. But guess what? It is just a small piece of the pie, all right? It's just a piece of the pie, all right? And if you get a partial solution, you're gonna get or if you have a partial answer, you're going to get a partial solution, right? So if we're not also looking at your mental health, stress, depression, anxiety, right? What do you think stress does to your body? No, top causes of death in the United States are stress-related illnesses. So if you don't think stress has an impact on your low back pain, you got to think again, right? Stress can literally kill people and cause a heart attack. It can definitely cause a little muscle spasm in your back that causes a bunch of low back pain, okay? It can absolutely cause muscle spasms. It can absolutely cause deoxygenation of the muscle tissue, hypoxia. It can absolutely lead to fear-related pain. So if you don't address stress, what are you doing? You've got to have that as part of the pie. What about the social and environmental context of your life? What about the people, the places, the things that you surround yourself with? So if your physical therapist can't address that, they're not going to help you with that. So what are you going to do? What about how you're sleeping? What about your nutrition, right? As always, here is a bunch of research that shows you why this is important. But the fact is that when we talk about what causes low back pain, what freaking causes low back pain? Well, it's not posture. It's not just posture. It's all of it. It's the whole pie. And if you're just looking like a tunnel vision through a microscope and saying, well, it's just my posture and I've got to have perfect alignment in my joints, you are totally missing the forest for the trees. And unfortunately, that's what your physical therapist is telling you, is that it's your posture. Your chiropractor is telling you it's your joint alignment. They are both full of shit. Okay? They're both missing the big picture. It's just a piece of the pie. So if you have a partial answer, you're only looking at one piece of the pie, well, no duh, you're gonna get partial results, right? That's why you don't have the results that you're looking for right now. But if you have a complete solution that addresses your mind and stress, as well as your body and your physical strength, and gives you community and accountability and teaches you how to fish, then, well, okay, now you have a complete solution. And yes, of course, I have a program for that. You know, the Beyond Back Pain 12-week healing intensive is amazing. I think it's incredible. But, you know, and if you want to know more about that, of course, watch the masterclass. But the point is, any solution that doesn't address all of these things is incomplete. It's not going to actually help you, okay? So we got to address the body, we got to address the mind, and we got to address the people, places, things that you surround yourself with in order to heal. Right? And that's where we get people like my client Julia, who herniated a disc, and when she came to me, she could barely walk. And this is really common. Disc herniations, when they're severe, they can hurt like hell. But the good news is most of the time they heal, right? And we got Julia back to walking at first. We just started with walking. We slowly worked our way into a walk run, and then eventually we got to running. And now look at her. She's running 3.5 miles pain-free, and she's doing trail running as well, right? So it's not just, you know, road running. She's hitting the trails, having a lot of fun. But that's because we started easy, we started slow, we did exercise, and we addressed the stress along the way. She was freaking out, right? Pain sucks. Pain is debilitating. Pain is financially and physically debilitating. So we've got to calm down the nervous system to get over the stress response so that you don't have these muscle spasms and fear of pain and fear of exercise. Because with the fear, if you are afraid of exercising, then you can't even do the exercise to begin with, which is the long-term solution, right? So just to remind you here, low back pain is more crippling than cancer. It's more crippling than heart disease, diabetes, depression, and infectious disease. So if you want to learn how to avoid crippling low back pain, if you want to avoid low back pain leaving you crippled, both physically, financially, etc., then be sure to watch the next video in the series, which will be coming very soon.